the product or process is given exclusive right over the invention or process for a specific period of time. So using this exclusive right, one can sell the invention or one can lease out the invention and make a monetary benefit out of it. That's why it is called as intellectual property. Like any other property, this is also claimed as a property. So a property can be sold or leased. The product or output generated by the human invention shall be done so. Okay, and the IPR as such is not a new concept. It is very old. In fact, it's a few centuries old concept, and everywhere around us. The only thing is that we are not aware or we have not paid much attention to this concept. For instance, from the very morning, you wake up, you consume a cup of tea or a coffee, then you try to correlate and then say what brand of coffee or tea that you consume. So you say, I used to always take only brew coffee, or I always consume only Tata tea, like that. So that name, the Tata tea or the brew coffee, that is the product brand name. And once you say the product name, there is also your logo. For every brand, there will be a name or a slogan attached to that particular brand, so that you can correlate that slogan or logo with that particular brand name. And also, everybody try to distinguish themselves or their product from others' product by means of using a unique design of the container, bottle or jar, whatever. For instance, the shampoo bottle of Head and Shoulders may be totally different from the another brand. The same way, the coffee jar of brew may be totally different from that of another brand. Right? That is only to differentiate and then market in a unique way. Most of this particular part of giving a unique design for the jar or bottle is also to help the visually challenged person in choosing the shopping centers. And then other thing is that your morning music, the morning whatever the music that you listen to the FM stations or through other channels or medias, right? The lyric compositions, the lyric written by the lyricist, the music composition by the various musicians, and then the song audio, no, like music players, all these things, everything is protected by one or the other means of intellectual property right. And even the composition, the FM radio, the so-called radio jockeys, the way how they present, the way how they compose and then make a presentation in a consecutive fashion for half an hour, how do they manage the show, all these things are copyrighted by the particular FM station. The morning news that you read either in the print media or in the electronic form, the content and then the presentation, that is also protected by one or the other means of intellectual property rights. We will see what are those. But once we say it is more than centuries old, you need to understand the historical aspect of the IPR. The initial or the first occurrence of the word IPR or its related concept in the existing literature says that it is in the year 500 before Christ that the Greek state of Sybaris, 1 year patent was awarded for anybody who comes out with a new invention related to refinement of luxury, refinement in luxury. But in year 1623, the state of statute of monopolies gave a first ownership for the inventions made through any individual. And in 1710, the statute of Anne was the first one which gave exclusive right. Prior to that, rights were given, but rights were given for both the inventor as well as who was sponsored or so like that. But it did not clearly indicate who shall be given the exclusive right. But in 1720, it was very much clearly redefined, and it said the exclusive right shall be given to the inventor, and that too for a period of 14 years time period. So during this 14 years period, the individual enjoys the exclusive right of the product or invention by him or her, and all the monetary benefits that is derived out of it shall be given only to the inventor of the particular product or process. And later on in the year 1883, the famous Paris Convention for the Protection of Industrial Property, it gave way for protection of industrial property, and then followed by that in the year 1886, the Berne Convention proposed the protection of literary and artistic work. And all these both these conventions are administered by the World Intellectual Property Organization, shortly called as WIPO. This is a top level body, international body, which protects and looks after the intellectual property related disputes and formulations of rules and regulations. Of course, you may be aware of or heard about the word World Trade Organization. So this World Trade Organization and the trade related intellectual property rights system, so shortly called as TRIPS, these agreements paved way for better understanding of intellectual property right and its implementation across several countries that which participate or has signed the World Trade Organization treaties. Okay, and so what is basically an intellectual property? We have been telling that it gives an exclusive right to the person who invents a particular product or process. So what kind of components, kind of materials or things that are covered under the intellectual property are, it shall include rights relating to any kind of literary work, artistic work, and scientific work. Sometimes the item may fall under one or more of these categories. So it shall be covered under one or more category as well. It shall also cover performances of performing artists, phonograms, broadcasts, inventions in all fields of human endeavor, scientific discoveries, industrial designs, so on and so forth. Right? So, in what way it is going to be beneficial or why it is required? The need for intellectual property. Why it is required is that because of global competition. There is a severe competition among the people involved in productivity, and often you can see that all adulterated tea products are into the market, or adulterated shampoos are being seized from various godowns and all these things, because a brand which is able to establish itself among the consumers and reap out a large benefit, now somebody can simply imitate that brand by faking or coming out with a similar looking packing, and they may put same flavor or same fragrance material inside it and then sell it off. So in order to avoid such kind of duplication of products and be sold in the market, they always try to come out with different. That's why nowadays people start including hologram stickers which are being pasted on the product containers, and also they try to imprint the so-called QR code on the product containers. So the moment you have a QR code scanner, you can scan the product and it will give the complete details about the particular product, whether it is original or it is a duplicate, because the QR code is always unique. So once the QR code is scanned, it should give the product details of the particular firm. If it gives any other detail which you feel suspicious, you need not purchase a particular product. Okay, this global competition and then high innovation rates, short product cycle, and so many things. These are all some of the factors which has been mentioned. This is not limited. In fact, there are so many other factors also which contribute to a need and necessity for protection of intellectual property rights. And the benefits of intellectual property rights, looking from the inventor's point of view, is that it allows the creators or the owners to benefit from their own work in the through the investment in the creation. The time that they have invested will be repaid to them by means of royalty, that is a monetary benefit. The patent owner can sell the product to any manufacturing firm which is interested in the product or the patented material, and every year, like at a specific time period, they will be repaying the patent owner by means of something called as a royalty. Okay, and in turn, the patent owners are obliged to publicly disclose the information on the invention in order to enrich the total body of technical knowledge in the world. It is not simply if somebody comes out with the invention and gets the benefit, but the IPR treaty says that anything that is being patented should be disclosed in a proper formal way, so that people come to know that it is patented by a particular person X, and it shall not be duplicated or improvised without the knowledge of the scientist, so-called X. So for that, some money has to be paid to them. At the same time, you can come out with some kind of derivatives or improvements from the product of Mr. or Dr. X. That is why all the patent owners are obliged to publicly disclose the information related to their inventions. Naturally, more and more inventions that happens, it is involved in the process of new idea creations, new product creations, and then improved industrial productions. So it involves and it reinforces economic growth and lot of employment. So for economic growth also, these kind of inventions are required, and these intellectual property rights insist on this point as well. It acts as a catalyst for economic development and social and cultural well-being of the entire mass involved in the process. It ensures credibility and quality of a product. Okay, what are the different branches of intellectual property rights? We might have heard about these terminologies very often, but in what way does one differs to the other? We are often misled or we have confusion over it. So for better understanding of all these terminologies, what is a patent, what is a patent, what is trademark, industry design, all these things, I will be presenting a pictorial thing on the next slide where you can understand it in a clear way. Yeah, before going into the pictorial representation, here we will know about the various authorities that are involved in approving the intellectual property related certificates, giving the certificates for patent owners, giving the certificate for copyright owners, and all these things. The IPR authority for India is basically the Ministry of Commerce and Industry, and under the ministry is the Department of Industrial Policy and Promotion. And under the department, there are two different bodies. One is Controller General of Patents, Designs and Trademarks, which looks into the industrial aspect of the intellectual property, that is patent, design, trademark, and geographical indication. Whereas the Registrar of Copyrights is the one which is, sorry, sir, Nitish, sorry. And the Registrar of Copyrights is the office which looks after the copyright related intellectual property rights. And as far as the plant varieties are concerned, the Ministry of Agriculture is a institution which looks after the plant varieties protection in India. The details of all these offices are given in the bottom of the slide. Using this URL, you can visit and get to know the different formalities involved in applying for either patent or plant varieties or trademark, whatsoever it may be. The application, what all the documentations that are required, supporting documents that are required, how much fees need to be paid, what is the waiting time, everything is given clearly. You can just follow the URL, you can note it down if somebody is interested in applying for patent or trademark, and it is very much explicit. You can get to know all the details from the given website. That is the most authentic website as far as the Indian government is concerned. This is a government website. Okay, like I said, in order to understand the difference among the different branches of IPR, we have given a pictorial representation here. I hope most of you will be able to recognize the moment you see the picture, what product is there inside the container. Yeah, most of you might have whispered the word Coca-Cola. It's right, because the design of the beverage, soft drink Coca-Cola, the bottle design is somewhat unique. It is different from other competitors like Pepsi. So people come out with some unique design so that the moment you see that, you'll be able to correlate and say the brand name. Okay, that way it is one way the product is very easily marketed. Otherwise, it also gives some kind of protection to the product. So here you could see that at the right bottom I have given trade dress design patent. Okay, that is what is called as industrial design. Under the IPR brands, that is called as industrial design. So the unique design by which this bottle design is protected comes under industrial design. And then patent shall be applied for something like a cap material. The unique tamper-proof cap material which is invented by Coca-Cola for their own bottle capping, that can be protected by means of patent. For a larger bottle, somebody can come up with a different kind of design, but it should not imitate the same kind of pressure holding, and then which is a lot of notches and all these things. If they are going to duplicate, then they need to get a permission from Coca-Cola. If they are going to follow similar kind of capping mechanism, or whoever has invented, they have to explore and see whoever has invented in the past, and they have to get the permission. And the trademark, that is which is going to be printed or pasted over the bottle, that is called as a trademark. Here the trademark is going to be the name of the brand, that is a Coca-Cola. So what is trade secret? The trade secret is the ingredients that are added as part of the product itself. The liquid which which adds to the flavor of the soft drink that you consume, that is treated as a trade secret. You might have often heard about the gossip that Coca-Cola, how to prepare Coca-Cola is a secret, and very few people, are only 2 people in the world knows. Yes, that is true. That's why it is called as trade secret. But regarding how many people exactly know, whether it is only 2 or only 4, that is quite questionable. Very few people know, and it may be like family business or family secret. Okay, as long as it is secret, it is under the branch of IPR called as a trade secret. Okay. And yeah, so first we will take up the first type of IPR called as a patent. So a patent is a product which gives a exclusive authorization or right to an inventor for the product or process invented by him or her, by which he provides a new way of doing something or that offers a new technical solution to a problem. And this patent, first the individual has to apply for a patent through the respective agency in their country, and after studying the relevant documentation submitted by the inventor, they will consider whether it is eligible to be patented, whether it is a duplicate of existing product or is a new invention. After studying all these things, after a stipulated period of time, a patent will be approved and they will be given a certification that this product is patented to so and so. From then onwards only, they will be able to make money out of it. They can sell the patent, they can lease out the patent for exclusive period, longer period, or a stipulated period. It's possible. Different kinds of arguments can be arrived at, and at times a single patent can be sold to multiple people also, depending upon the business or in which the patent is going to be implemented. Okay, and here you could see that I have provided two different URLs at the bottom. The first one, which is the international database. So if you want to know what all the patterns that exist in a particular domain, you can go to this particular URL and run a search. For instance, I want to know a unique product. Let me say okay, a particular spare part of a refrigerator. If you want to say which are all the firms that are involved, what are the patent designs that have been approved, then I can go and say refrigerator, say compressor. I can give refrigerator compressor in the database, and it will say who are all the people who have applied for and got a patent in there. The second one URL is about the exclusive products or patents from the from India. So if you want to know any pattern of India, you have to run a search in the second URL. In the first URL, it covers India also. All the countries that which are part of the WTO, World Trade Organization, all the countries' databases are linked to the first URL, and you will get all of them. So you can go and look into both of these URLs. So whichever is having a better and user-friendly user interface, you can run a search and find out. Okay, now coming to the process of applying for patent. So this is the process. So how much of time is involved? You could see that the provisional application involves 12 months. Like that, there are so many time stipulations are given, and what is the workflow, and what are the sections that are there, what documents, everything is provided here. If you are interested, you can just note down the URL that has been provided at the right bottom for applying for patent, and you can visit that particular site and get benefited out of applying for any kind of patent. Okay, coming to the trademark. This is the second branch of intellectual property right. Here I have provided some pictures for better understanding. A trademark is basically a signature sign which distinguishes a company's product or service from its competitors. And a trademark can be either a word or a logo or slogan. For instance, here I have given the example of Amul, where Amul is the brand name and the taste of India is the slogan. Okay, Amul means if you say taste of India, you will say what is it? It is Amul, like that. Okay, and this trademark and registered are within your circle. These are synonymously being used in different products. They both mean the same. While trademark means trademark, or is a registered trademark. So it is like driving a vehicle with a sticker called as car registration. And once the registration is completed, you drive a vehicle with a registered number. So as long as the application is pending with the intellectual property rights office of the particular country, the one has to put the TM signal TM signal, as it has been given in the case of Himalaya product. Next to Himalaya, you can see the TM, which means the application is still pending, it is not processed. If the processing part is completed, then next to Himalaya, they will put the registered symbol. Okay, and a product which is registered for the trademark in one country again need to apply for fresh registration in any other country where they want to sell the product. So it is different from country to country. It is not that you register in one country from where it is being produced. Your production unit may be in India, so you registered your product and trademark in India. If you want to export your product to say to European countries or to say China or any other place, again in that country you need to again go for trademark registration. Otherwise, your product cannot be protected. It will lead to some kind of complications. Okay, and this is the workflow as far as the trademark is concerned. Again, at the bottom, the website URL has been given. So you can just look into this workflow diagram from the URL provided at the bottom and get to know in detail how much time does it take and what are the procedures and formalities involved for application of trademark. Okay, so this is what is called as industrial design. Like I said, everybody want to give a unique design for their own product containers. So as far as industrial design is concerned, it is only for the container, not for the material inside. The container has to look somewhat unique from other competitors. For that, these kind of tactics are being followed by the industrial giants. You could see that the Kinley water bottle or Himalaya shampoo or Head and Shoulder shampoo, all these things. Like I said, it also helps the visually challenged people in taking the right material from among the many materials that are available in a shopping complex, or even for that matter, even kids can recognize. The moment they get to know the product, what they are using at home, they need not read the material from the container, but rather looking at the shape and design of the material or the container, they can simply pick up while they are also accompanying the parents while shopping. And the registered trade designs are available under the URL which has been given at the bottom. That is a searchable database. You can go and search in that particular database to get to know the different trade designs that are already registered. Okay, and this is a flow chart for trade design application in India. Okay, next branch is trade secret. Like I said, the trade secrets need not be registered with a complete details. Usually, when you apply for a patent, you apply for a trade design, you apply for trademark, then they will ask with set of documents as supporting documents. You need to fill up a lot of details in the application, and you need to support every information that you provide with a set of documents as proof. But in the trade secrets, it is not so. It is very, very, very simple. You have to fill up the form and say, I have a product, and the process by which I have come out with the product, I want to protect it as a trade secret. In some countries, they insist the trade secret need to be registered, and some countries they say you simply need to forward a letter and get it approved. Right? The formality differs from country to country, and as long as this secret is going to be for some economical mileage, it is going to give a better mileage economically for the particular firm, it can be approved. Otherwise, no, it is not required. And then coming to the next interesting part is the geographical indication. A geographical indication is a sign which is used on products that have a specific geographical origin and possess qualities or reputation that are due to the origin. I have given some examples at the bottom, like Darjeeling tea, and then Aranmula Kannadi, Pochampalli Agar, Salem fabric, Pradipani Panjamridam. You can say a lot of things because India is such a vast country with lot of variation among the different regional people by means of culture and creativity. So, for instance, you have this Ambur biryani, you have Tirunelveli Alva, you have Kolkata Rasgulla, right? I can go to a stall in Chennai in Central Station where again I may find three different stalls with the same names. Somebody telling Tirunelveli Alva being sold, or Kolkata Rasgulla is being sold here, or Ambur Biryani being served here. But you will not get the same aroma, taste, fragrance of any of these products as it is available in the native soil. You go to Ambur area and consume the biryani, or you try to consume Ambur biryani somewhere else, you will find there is a difference. The reason may be because of the soil, means the water which is being used for cooking that product. In that locality, the water will be different, and in other locality, the water will be different. You may hire the same cook from that locality and take him to elsewhere and try to prepare. For sure, there will be a difference in taste. That is why they say this is very much unique. No, that particular product prepared from that particular soil is something unique. If that is proved, they can go for applying for the protection by means of geographical indication. Okay, next slide. Plant varieties. Plant varieties. Protection of plant breeds. Or something called as plant breed rights shall be protected under the intellectual property right, and the right is granted to anybody who is involved in the scientific invention of new breeds, crossbreeding of crops, who may be an agricultural scientist or a simple farmer who is interested in coming out with new invention pertaining to any kind of crop, which may be a flowering plant or a seed production plant or any other thing of that sort. Okay, and the inventor is given exclusive right for breeding the crop, and then anything derivative out of the crop, he has the exclusive right for selling the product for a stipulated period of time. But getting a plant variety involves a lot of time, because the moment I say that I have come up with a new variety, it is not immediately approved. First, I have to sow and show them how much time is involved in rearing that particular plant till it starts producing the flowers or till it starts producing the seeds or crop. After that, again they will wait for another 2 to 3 years and see whether it mutates, that particular seed, whether it mutates or it rots. No, even without these, under the favorable condition also, whether it is able to withstand, all such thing will be studied, and later period only the plant breeder rights are provided to the particular individual. And then you could see at the bottom the URL where you can go and search for the plant varieties, protected plant varieties. And here all the time you have been seeing the URL called as WIPO, which is World Intellectual Property Organization, but here you could see that UPVO, which is Union for Protection of Plant Varieties. So only when you want to access any details from this database, one need to register. It is, of course, it is a free. You have to register first, and then only you can run a search and get to know what are the plant varieties that are being protected using this particular variety of IPR. Coming to the last but the most important thing according to me as academician is copyright, which is under the intellectual property. The copyright law grants authors, artists, and other creators protection for the literary and artistic work. All the literary work, films, architectural, using the copyright. I have just simply given you.
1 second, Leeladharan sir. Please, yes, participant, mute your mic. It is a humble request, please.
Thank you, ma'am. So here I have given a pictorial representation of one of the books, because often you might have seen inside the book, just after the first or second page reverse, you will see that a small symbol C within a circle, that is the copyrighted symbol, which says that the author has taken exclusive protection for the product, which means every text that is inside the book is protected, and you are not authorized to make any copy of it and make any financial benefit. You should not photocopy the entire book and sell it. You should not try to copy the text and make use of it as it is your own. If you do so, it is a legal violation. That is what is meant by copyright protection. And any copyrighted material, and the publisher who publishes and makes benefit out of it, they will be paying the royalty to the author of the content. The author gets the benefit, and the copyright is the one which is protected for a longer duration compared to anything like patent or the trade secrets or trademarks or any other branches of IPR. So we will simply see the different time periods of validity for the different IPR branches. Okay, and of course, to know the copyright related aspects, you can run a search at the URL that is recorded at the bottom, copyright.gov.in. And it is not only applicable for printed materials like books, journals, and magazines. This copyright is also applicable for musical recordings, video cassettes, audio cassettes, CDs, DVDs, and now copyright is also applicable for all software products. Any software that is created is protected by copyright provisions. And this is the copyright registration workflow. Of course, in order to understand or get to know in detail about this workflow, you can just visit the URL provided at the bottom. You can make a note of it. and go through the details for knowing or understanding in detail about the copyright registration process. Okay, having discussed about the different branches of IPR, you also need to know what is so serious about this intellectual property. If somebody invents something, they get benefited out of it. They are paid some money. Yes, the creator is benefited. In what way I will be benefited, or in what way I will be affected? I don't know what precaution should I take. So here I am going to present some case studies. Right. First, here I have provided some details about the major infringements that has happened across the globe. In the first case, you may be able to see the two products, Puma and Puma. Of course, most of you may be aware Puma is a product which is specialized in sports-related accessories and materials, and one another firm which has tried to imitate it with a similar sounding word and also with a similar kind of logo, where one animal is trying to leap over from right extreme to left. So this is no a legal violation, because the other company also may be involved in the same kind of product, and they are trying to imitate the use of pronunciation or phonetics or images. That is wrong. The same happens with all the 3 or 4 cases that have been given here. In all the cases, the original company can go for filing a legal thing against the other, and obviously the original owner will win the case, provided the original owner or the original person has registered the trademark, the original person has registered the product design. If all these things they have meticulously followed, the legal system will be favor of the first company which is already established in the market, and they can get a very good remedy. Okay, this is another thing where you could see that the Samsung company and then the other product, which is the Apple company products, two products. Of course, the operating system which are used in these two models are totally different. While Samsung uses Android, the Apple uses something called as Mac iOS, as operating system. But look-wise, as you could see, by all means, they are looking more similar. So now the issue is that Apple has filed the case against Samsung Electronics, stating that my product was the one which was proposed, and then my product is registered for the design. So obviously now Samsung has to pay a heavy fine to the Samsung Corporation. Sorry, Samsung has to pay a heavy fine to Apple Corporation, and then the court has settled in favor of Apple Incorporation, and in one country they have given verdict, other country is not able to accept. It goes on in 10 different countries. The litigation is still on. Okay, next. The case of Adobe and Microsoft Corporation, where they have leveled allegations against multiple institutions, saying that many institutions they have installed pirated softwares in their institutions like colleges or universities or corporate offices. Of course, the judgment was in favor of these two corporate firms. So, no, your author is only to make use of licensed version. You are not supposed to use of pirated softwares. Okay, this is also another interesting case which has happened in University of Delhi, where a teacher has taken photocopies of multiple pages from a book for distributing study materials for students. Having come to know about this, the particular publisher, they have placed legal allegation against the university authorities and the individual teacher concerned, saying that they have violated the copyright. But fortunately, the particular teacher or the authority, they are not penalized, because the entire content is not reproduced by means of photocopying, rather here and there. That's why I have given which page has been taken as a photocopy and what is the level of percentage of content that has been taken from the particular page, right? The total constitution, if you look at the total percentage, it doesn't cross a specific limit, and also they did not sell this product. After taking these many photocopies, it was compiled like a small booklet, and only for the photocopying charges the students are charged. So they did not make any benefit out of it. This was distributed among the students only for the purpose of reading. So copyright also gives a provision for fair use. The fair use means you can copy the material and give it to others, where you need to quote the reference. If it is the copying has happened as part of literary publication, like you are publishing a journal article or you are publishing a book, you should not copy. Rather, I should say you should use the word copy. If you are using the words of others as part of your content, provide it within quotations and then properly cite them, then it is exempted. You are safe. If you happen to use a material without quotation or without giving proper citation, then it is a copyright violation. In case of taking photocopy and giving it to students, or in case of making the content of others as part of your PPT, then you have to give proper attribution and you should not make any financial benefit out of it, right? Then it is not a copyright violation. Okay, this is another example where actually people involved in the same kind of business like Paytm and PayPal, both of them are involved in the same business, and you could see that both have used the two-tone color mechanism to identify their logo. The first is dark tone and the second one is light tone. Both uses the word pay as the beginning of the logo or brand. So this is a violation. So whoever has registered at first, right? So naturally it was PayPal who has registered at first, and PayPal has accused Paytm for cheating or copying its logo to grow its own business. It is still under dispute. Okay, this is another example where Croc Incorporation has come out with this design of chapel, and later on Liberty Shoes also imitated. But of course, they said there is not something unique, or this particular model of chapel does not give you any medical benefit. And no, the court did not give anything in favor of Crocs, but it said it is waived off. The court waived off. So coming to the validity point of the different registration of intellectual property rights, you could see that right in patent, trademark, designs, and all these things, right? The one which is being given the maximum time of validity is a copyright, where the creator is given exclusive right, not only during his lifetime. Please understand, a person who may be coming out with the content as a journal article, or coming out with a book, or coming out with a composition of music or song, right? As long as he or she lives, the material is protected by copyright, and even after his death, or from the time of his or her death, after that it is valid for 50 years. After the death of the individual, it is valid for 50 years. So not only the individual, but his dependents, his family members, the legal heirs, they also get the financial benefit of the copyright protected material. That's why copyright is a serious issue. You need to think about the copyright protected materials, how to make them fairly, or you should make sure that you are not violating copyright at any part of time. Okay. So that's why UGC has taken some precautionary measures and has come out with some regulations called as promotion of academic integrity and prevention of plagiarism in higher education institutions. Of course, UGC is not the only body which has come out with protection on the prevention of plagiarism, but rather it is also being implemented by All India Council for Technical Education. Both these higher education institutions, governing the bodies, they have come out with the regulations, and any institution that falls under the purview of UGC or ACT should follow these guidelines. Okay, so for whom these guidelines are framed, or who are addressed through these guidelines, are that it is meant for the students, faculties, researchers, and any other staff of higher education institutions who are involved in teaching, because there will be teaching assistants, there will be lab technicians who are involved in the practical teaching, right? And so many other cadres who are also partially involved in teaching or research projects. All of them are covered or are to be administered through these guidelines. Basically, this was created, and these guidelines were created to create awareness about responsible conduct of research, writing of theses, submission of theses and dissertations, and promotion of academic integrity and prevention of misconduct and avoidance of plagiarism in academic institutions, right? And so what is this plagiarism? We are talking about plagiarism. So what is plagiarism? Plagiarism is nothing but the act of copying a material of one individual and reproducing the same copied material as one's own. If I happen to copy another person's material which is already published either in electronic form or in printed platform, I try to copy that material and produce as a statement or as a finding of my own material, as part of my own material, then it is called plagiarism. This is a violation of copyright. Okay, and this is categorized again into different types like global plagiarism, buying assignments, paraphrasing plagiarism, mosaic, and all this. What does it mean? Global plagiarism means the entire content. The entire content is taken. For instance, I take somebody else electronic book which is available electronically, e-book, right? And then remove the first page alone, and then redesign the first page and remove the author's name and put my name and get it published. That is called as global plagiarism. Okay, not even a single sentence is contributed by me, but rather I try to make benefit by simply changing the name. This has often happened in academics and it has been proved at a later stage. And because of this, even at vice chancellor's level, right, they have been sacked. Right, there are so many instances where vice chancellors, in order to get themselves promoted and be in the limelight at a later stage, they wanted to contribute a lot. When they are at the associate professor level or professor level, all of a sudden they are very desirous to become a vice chancellor. So they, what they do is that they have done, unfortunately, mechanism like global plagiarism. Take the entire book, put their name, get it published, and then add in the profile. Later on, they are caught and they are asked to resign the job. In India, you could see that you run a search in Google, you'll find n number of cases where they have been asked to resign and they have lost even the parent organization job also. The second one is buying assignments or articles. People also are involved in buying assignments or articles. There are so many service providers for this where one can pay and get the result. This is another kind of plagiarism. This also should be avoided at all costs because you do not know whether the same assignment is being sold to another person. For instance, I may be involved in a project called as social status of tribals of Tamil Nadu. So I may be buying an assignment that fellow will give. Again, another somebody else will say social status of tribals of northern Tamil Nadu or southern Tamil Nadu. They may be focusing on a particular zone. The same set of data or the same style of writing will be sold to the other party. So whichever gets published at first, whichever gets published second, the second one will always be shown as a plagiarized or one which has violated the copyright. Both of us are paid, but unfortunately, you are using a wrong platform or wrong mechanism to create scholarly content. So you may end up in violation of copyright and you can be not penalized for such an action. Then paraphrasing plagiarism. Paraphrasing is a mechanism where you try to rewrite others' sentences. Of course, every research will be using to some extent paraphrasing. But if you're doing the paraphrasing at the same time you're not giving proper attribution or quotations, then this may be called as paraphrasing plagiarism or rephrasing plagiarism. If more of paraphrasing happens in your thesis or dissertation, mosaic plagiarism. Okay, of course, every text or model has been given a clearly with the definition, right? Within brackets, I have defined what exactly does it mean, so you can just read and understand. And towards the last, I have given two things where I have not explained within the brackets. Those are like incorrect citation and citing a non-existing source. Incorrect citation is that you have taken ideas or ideas or findings of another scientist and happen to include that in your literary work, be it a journal article or thesis, but you have quoted something else. You have not given the actual content, or you are giving another content which is not related to where from you take the content. Then that is called as incorrect citation. In some other case, you try to add more references because sometimes the guide insists, oh, you are writing a journal article, there should be minimum 13 references, 30 references. Oh, your thesis should contain at least 80 references, like that. Whereas the number of works that you have referred could be lesser than that. So in order to convince the guide, often the research scholars end up adding only more number of references at the end of the chapters, like references or bibliography. Then that is called as citing a non-existing source. You are including more references of which there is no connectivity between the reference and the contents that you have cited. Then it is called as citing a non-existing source. This is also an offense, but this happens often due to non-awareness. So one should be aware of it, and they should try to make use of certain tools that are available for this purpose, right? Of course, self-plagiarism. This also I have come across in several instances where people think, okay, I have written using my own words, I have written this article, and I am the copyright owner. Why can't I make use of it again? Right? Because it is your own content, right? Your own finding, right? But Why don't you rewrite it? That is a question. So you have to rewrite. The moment you are writing or copying your own pre-published content and produce it as your own again, the system will always show that it is a plagiarized content. And once there are two possible cases. One thing is that the publisher outrightly reject your content without quoting the reason. Simply say plagiarized. So where it is plagiarized, from where it is plagiarized. Now, if they are not giving clarification, you will be puzzled. You may stop writing. Or if they try to explain, okay, this particular part is plagiarized from a particular journal article, and then you come to understand, oh, this is my own article which I published 2 years back. Then you need to explain to them. By the time, no, how much of time is involved in explaining, communicating, all these things adds a lot of stress to you. So it's better to avoid self-plagiarizing your own content. Okay. So we are talking about the plagiarism, but what are the reasons behind this plagiarism? Why does it happen? I've gone through a lot of literature, and these are all the major factors that are highlighted in so many texts. So I have consolidated, summarized, and presented here the various reasons. But the most prominent reason that is highlighted in most of the text is that lack of awareness of plagiarism. But I would like to differ on this point because no, we cannot say we are not aware of the consequences of plagiarism, but rather no, people think take it in a lighter sense, because right from kindergarten classes or class 1, we are always instructed by the teachers not to copy from the neighbor, right? For every examination, class test, teachers say don't copy from your neighbor. You know? So copying others' content as an adult, when you are in a high position, we try to rephrase and say it is plagiarism. So it is nothing but copying and using it as your own content. So that is where I say lack of awareness is not an issue, but lack of awareness on the consequences. People always feel they may not be caught. People always feel it is not a big offense. That kind of attitude is the one which leads to plagiarism. And also because of lack of awareness on copyright, because people know copying, okay, it's not a big offense, but once they are educated or informed, what could be the consequences, how much of no, penal proceedings can be taken on you, then they will understand the seriousness. So that's why lack of awareness on copyright violation should be done. That's why today we are having a session on this IPR with a special focus on the copyright issue. Okay, of course, the other factors are also the lack of training in report writing, lack of time management skills, poor language proficiency, because we are all non-native speakers of English. So when you are forced to write only in English, there will be some kind of hiccups. Of course, you can overcome these by means of practicing and writing, rewriting, refining your own work. So before submission, you try to read it more than twice or thrice, then you will feel, yes, this part I can improvise. No, like that you can improvise yourself, or you can keep it for the opinion of your own peers, your colleagues, your friends, for them to read and give comments, critical comments, so that it can be easily improvised. Of course, work pressure, there will be work pressure for academics. In order for the promotion, other things they need to publish, but you need to understand and handle the pressure in an efficient way by means of proper time management. You need to dedicate at least an hour in a week, or at least no, a day in a month, like that, exclusively for academic contributions, for research work or writing work and all this. So if you try to plan meticulously, then you can come out with quality articles. And then decide to get good grades or positions. Of course, a desire should not be only a desire, but hard work should be there. So only desire is there, but hard work is not there. That is what tempts and leads to issues like plagiarism or copying of others' material. So hard work is required, and fear of failing is another factor. Of course, where I said there is a desire, but then people are not ready to do the hard work. Naturally, they will have the fear of failing, and they end up doing all this stuff. So please be very serious about these issues. Do some hard work for writing components, then you can improvise and come up with quality articles. Okay, talking about this plagiarism, what is the mechanism? How do they find out that a particular content is copied, or how do it compares with the existing source and then say, wow, how much it is similar to the existing content? Is that no? There are certain softwares or tools that are available in the market for checking the similarity or plagiarism. Something called as Turnitin, and then Urkun, Authenticate, such kind of softwares. They check the similarity, and similarity checks doesn't say all the text are similar. There are certain classes which are excluded, like any quoted work that has been reproduced with all necessary permission and or attention. For instance, in the article that you write for journals, I may be writing an article on ICT awareness among the higher education teachers or ICT usage by higher education teachers. So once you say ICT, first I need to say what is ICT means. So in the article, let me start with ICT, information communication technology, is a use of any kind of electronic gadgets, something like that. If I write, and at the end, it is not my own definition. This definition is taken from, say, Oxford Dictionary, or this definition has been taken from some other dictionary. Then what I need to say is that within quotations, double quotes, the definition as per Oxford, the definition as per LibGo dictionary like that. So that definition is not your own definition, but other definition. So you provide it within quotation. Just immediately following this statement or definition, you have to put a hyphen and then give where from this has been provided. So you can, similar way, in literary works or in literature related content, you say the sayings of Vivekananda, according to Shakespeare, according to Othello, all these things. So what they have stated, you have to provide within quotes, because it is not what you are expressing, it is an expression of other person that should be provided within quotations. All these things by default will be excluded and they will not be treated as a copied material as long as the text is within double quotes. One. Second thing is that all references, bibliographies, table of contents, preface, acknowledgements will be excluded while the author is doing the comparison. But I would like to caution the research scholars here, please try to practice this mechanism. That is, the references or bibliographies should always be provided at the end of the thesis and not at the end of every chapter, because the moment the author looks into the caption, reference or bibliography at the end, that entire chapter is excluded. If you are giving the references at the end of every chapter, it cannot exclude the end of every chapter, because it has to again screen the following chapter. The end of chapter references will be treated as part of the text itself, and that will be treated as a plagiarism or treated as a copied material. And then all generic terms, laws, standard symbols, and standard equations that are used as part of mathematical materials or scientific writing will be excluded from similarity checks. So what is permissible limit? What is the limit that is not approved? No, earlier there used to be a confusion with university to university. They used to say, sir, Madras University allows 20%, up to 20%. If the report comes, they allow. They say, sir, Bhardas University is 30%, Kolkata University 35%. So there was no uniformity. No, everybody was trying to interpret according to their own convenience. So later on, what happened? UGC said there is a proper guideline. So that has been floated in the year 2018 through the regulations, and this is the levels, 4 different levels. What they have said, up to 10%, it is called as level 0, which means it is permitted. It doesn't mean that I can copy up to 10% of the material from other sources, but this 10% may happen accidentally. So how can it happen accidentally? I'll just explain, but let me discuss other issues, level 1, level 2, and level 3 also. So what is it 10%, like I said, accidentally is that as part of your as part of your research, be it a journal article or be it a thesis. As social scientists, we always try to formulate some hypothesis, which is called as null hypothesis and alternate hypothesis, and you need to prove or disprove the hypothesis. So you are writing in the analysis chapter will always come out with a statement as the p-value is significant, the null hypothesis is rejected, it is insignificant, so alternate hypothesis is accepted. So this is a common phrase that is used as part of most of the social science theses. So these things will always be reflected as a copied material. So these kind of common terminologies which you make use of in your text, that by accidentally it cannot be done away with. At the same time, it is very much required, and that's why they are given up to 10%. It is allowed. So above 10%, it falls in the level 2, level 1, level 2, and level 3. So what are the penalties that can be charged on the violators? In the case of students who are in a master degree program, pursuing their master's degree or MPhil or PhD, up to 10%, there are no issues. Yes, your work is good, and you will be awarded the degree without any issues. If the similarity or plagiarism report says that it is up to 10 to 40, then the individual is asked to revise the script and submit within 6 months. If the copying or no similarity of your material with the existing material is 40 to 60, then you will be debarred from submitting your revised script for 1 year. If it is above 60, your registration for the program is cancelled. You need to re-register yourself for MPhil or PhD in any other university and then start pursuing the research once again. In the case of the faculty members, right? In the case of faculty members, actually the penalties are much more stricter, where it says up to 10% no penalty. 10 to 40, the manuscript shall be withdrawn. 40 to 60, 1 year increment, right? 1 year increment will be cancelled. They will not be allowed to supervise any student for 2 year period. In the case of violation about 60%, they will be denied 2 successive annual increments, and they will not be permitted to guide any fresh student or scholar for a period of 3 years. Not only this, if one is proven that they have done this offense twice, if I happen to plagiarize my content in level 1, that is 10 to 40% in the first instance, and I am caught, second and again somebody proves that I have violated, which may be a level lesser than the previous one, even then the institution authority, they can charge me 1 level above the previous offense, and the penalties will be according to the next higher level. If the offense is repeated more than once, the institutional authority have the right to terminate my appointment. Okay, this has happened in a lot of cases, and one cannot seek the remedy from legal courts. You cannot go to the judiciary system and take any kind of remedy, for the reason the top level academic officers like UGC and AICTE, they have come out with guidelines, and every institution is to make aware every individuals. You cannot say that I am not aware, though no, you may not have undergone any kind of orientation or workshops in this dimension, because the gazette notifications are quoted almost 2-3 years back, so one should be aware of it. Even otherwise, no academics can say, sorry sir, I'm not aware that I'm not supposed to copy, because as an academician, it is a legal, not illegal, it is a moral and ethical issue that you should not involve in any kind of copying. Right, thank you for patiently listening to my lecture, and the session, I think it's open for discussion now.
Thank you, Leela sir. Participants, any question? Okay, let me ask you, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
I have a doubt.
Yes,
There
ma'am.
is a patent for turmeric consists.
Yes, ma'am.
Turmeric, manjatulukku vandu there is a patent, but
Yes, ma'am.
it is used for every what is called, it is used for every antibiotics cream. At present, in Fair and Lovely, they are using Vico, they are using. So the turmeric
Yes, ma'am.
don't have any patent. Everybody can use that turmeric.
Ma'am, actually, turmeric cannot be patented, but turmeric, what is the chemical composition? Because they call it something called as curcumin, which is derived out of that turmeric.
Turmeric.
So, who is involved in the research, they find out the curcumin is the ingredient which gives this medicinal value, and they have patented the curcumin product under their name. So, any other product which is going to make use of this curcumin as an exclusive extract, they need to get permission from the patenter, the person who has come out with the patent. So as such, any kind of geographical material, for instance, this Madurai Malli, Madurai Malli or any other thing, which is geographical indication, they are not patented, they are called as geographical indication. Excluding this patent and trademark, geographical indication can be applied only by a society or a association. So the Madurai Malli is given the tag, like you are talking about the turmeric. Madurai Malli is protected by geographical indication, where actually the Jasmine Growers Association in that locality, they need to apply for the geographical indication. No individual can apply for geographical indication. The same way the Payani Panchamrutam or Tirupati Laddu, which is basically a product of that particular temple. So the temple authority, they have to apply for geographical indication. The Amur Biryani, similar way, the traders of Amur region, they have to apply. In the case of patent, it is applied by an individual. Industry is applied by the industry which is involved in the production, and then the trade secret by the industry. Okay. So this patent for the turmeric, actually, it is not for the entire turmeric, but only for curcumin.
Okay, so then one more question from Mr. Jagdish, and he is asking that any colleges are doing an extracurricular activities. It has to
Yes.
be under the register under IPR.
Extracurricular activity means is it a
Other than
cultural activity?
cultural activities, other than academic. In
Okay.
academic, we are going for NAC.
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Extracurricular activities.
Yes. Yes, ma'am. Actually, here one issue is involved. For instance, once you say extracurricular activities, usually in the schools or colleges, at the cultural event, we try to make the students dance for, say, let us say, a cinema song. So we are not taking for permission from the person who has done the composition. So we are taking it for granted. We run the song at the background and make the students dance. How they dance, our own creativity. But the song doesn't belong to us.
Yes, yes. The patent
So
is
that is
somebody's.
yeah. So that is the issue. First thing, and the other thing is that if at all you want to protect it by means of some kind of IPR, one thing is that that can be recorded. How the entire performance was done, that can be recorded, and the recorded material is protected. If you want to sell it or share it among your students, that can be copyrighted because it is documented. Any kind of documented materials which is written and then documented, photographed or which is videographed, they can be protected by means of copyright because money is involved, space is involved, manpower is involved. That is, but try to make sure that you are not involved in any kind of copyright violation while documenting this. Like I said, when you are running a song at the background, make a student do the practice. First of all, you should have taken the permission from the particular
Person.
song. Then it is not a violation.
Okay. Thank you,
That's
Leela.
why, yes, ma'am. I would like to add one more clarification here.
Yes, sir.
Often you find that when you are trying to make contact with somebody over your mobile phones, it always comes out for listening to this as a caller tune. You need to pay this much, that much.
Yes.
And in Mumbai High Court, actually, a particular forum which has all the lyricists, famous playback singers like Lata Mangeshkar and all these people, they have filed a case. They said no, these are the songs that are come out as creativity of the music composition and our own efforts. So others should not make any monetary benefit out of this. So now these kind of telephone organizations, be it Jio or Airtel, they are forced to pay money to that particular organization whenever they all want to make use of such songs as caller tunes. The same applies. That's why even Ilayaraja, you might have heard about the controversy a few years back that Ilayaraja, he said anybody who is going to have a unique display of his songs in India or abroad, they need to take permission from him. Even for single song, usually the FMs and the TV channels, they have taken written consent from these people. So when they play the song, you can listen to it, enjoy it. But when you want to play it and then do some activity out of it, the original thing is that you should take written consent from them.
Okay, thank you, sir. Sir, any question from the participant?
Ma'am,
Okay.
I have a question, ma'am.
Yes, proceed, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Proceed, ma'am, please.
Since sir has explained about plagiarism, avoiding plagiarism, I have a doubt. While writing some journal article, we cannot change some definitions of a particular term. Some terms we cannot be changed and write the definitions. So in that situation, so many definitions used by the so many authors. How to avoid by plagiarism by defining a particular term?
Very genuine question. Actually, as far as the definitions are concerned, in your article, which may be running for minimum 3 pages, right? I will not be having more than 1 or 2 definitions. So those definitions, whatever you try to incorporate as part of the text, those definitions should be given within double quotation, and immediately after the definition, you have to put where from this definition was derived, right? If you do that properly, the software will exclude that from looking at that material as a copied material. So it will not show as a copied material. Your literature or your journal article is not going to have only kind of definitions. But this is a major problem which is being faced by the people in literature domain, language linguistics domain, because their entire work may be about the previous contribution of a scholarly person. My entire research is going to be about, say, by Kambar or Tulgapir or this. So I have to keep on quoting all their previous sayings or previous written materials. So a lot of materials will be as part of the quotations, and there the level of plagiarism is often shown as high, where actually human intervention is required. We have to see whether all materials are quoted properly. After that also, if it is showing high, why? Then upon human intervention, we'll find out the reasons, and then it can be justified and it can be passed on for further publication. In the case of social sciences or sciences, that is not the case. And like I said, if it is properly quoted within double quotation, you need not worry about it.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Dr. Deepa ma'am, for organizing such an informative, wonderful session. Thank you once again.
Thank you, Priya ma'am. Any questions? So let me wind up the session.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, feeling gratitude and not expressing it is like wrapping a present and not giving it. It is actually quoted by William Author, and I wanted to say it is a very useful. How come means yesterday is the past and tomorrow is the future, but today I'm gifted by this wonderful talk by Leeladharan sir. Just I asked him a half cup of coffees, but he has given a full verge of it. Thank you, Leeladharan sir. On behalf of Islamia Women's Arts and Science College, from the management side, from our secretary side, and my principal and vice principal, and from my IQSC coordination group, I thank you, Leeladharan sir, and I thank all the participants who spend your valuable time with us days. The feedback form is there. You can assess within a week time. The certificate will be uploaded to you. And thanks to everybody. And thanks for Leeladharan sir. Thank you. Be safe, be stay. Do good and be good. Thank you. Jai Hind.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you all the participants. Thank you.